Yes, hi, hello. This is James, also known as Saber0307, and welcome back to Gooncast, where we fucking suffer through garbage, so you don't have to.
Yay.
Worship
That's an
us.
understatement.
We will carry the cross for you.
Yeah.
I'm Kat, aka the Attack Cat, on Twitch. I'm a QA tester by day, sometimes streamer, slash artist, slash writer, by night.
What's shaking, everybody? It's your boy Lee Alder, the Valley Jester, horror and fantasy writer. And God, I cannot take any more bad horror. So we had to spread the suffering around.
Yeah, once
I
again,
can.
we're joined by Mike.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
I'm back. The curse continues. Thanks for having me on again, friends.
MC
My name is-
Ghoulgutts in the house.
That's right. It's Michael. I also go by Ghoulgutts on the internet, on Twitch mostly. I'm a musician and a writer and de facto member of this here Goon Squad.
Mhm.
Yeah, buddy.
So let's kick things off with Fear Street was a piece of shit.
Oh my god. What a thing I would never have expected to be a hot take, but given all of the rave reviews,
Uh-huh.
seems like it's a real unpopular opinion we all hold.
Yeah,
We're the contrarians.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
This wasn't even really a planned podcast thing. It was just like a few weeks ago when Fear Street was about to drop on Netflix. I was like, oh, this is getting like really high critical praise. Hey, it seems like a goofy horror movie. This could be entertaining. Why don't we
Yeah.
do a watch party of it? And then
It's
it was
R.L. Stein.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then it was a giant piece of shit.
I would rather watch the Jack Black Goosebumps movies
Yeah.
than rewatch
Yeah.
Fear Street.
Yeah, and then we were like, all right, we got to see how this ride continues, and then we watched part 2, and it was marginally better than part
It
1,
was.
Agreed.
It was.
but it was still a giant piece of shit. And then we're like, all right, how is this fucking thing gonna end? And it's just fuck.
It ends with Arthur Miller's The Crucible.
Actually, it does.
The Debbul.
The
Debbul.
Debbul.
Oh,
Oh,
my
we'll
God,
get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So none of us have any nostalgia value for the Fear Street novels, correct? None of us read them.
No,
Nope.
This was the first time I've ever heard of them. I was honestly not a big Goosebumps kid
okay.
because again, it was one of those things where it was horror. The covers were scary, therefore it was banned from my house. My cousins had a couple of them, and I would like sneak peeks at the cover and like, be like, oh, what's that about? And they'd tell me, but I never read them myself. So
Yeah, I haven't read any of the Fear Street books, and also from what I understand, this adaptation doesn't really follow the source material very well, if
That's
at
good
all.
to know. Okay.
It's mostly just by name.
Yeah.
That's
That's what I read too.
Yeah, so we're able to tackle this without any rose tinted glasses about the past. There's no nostalgia factor here for any of us. We approached these 3 movies just as horror fans, and wow, even just on the lower bar that I kind of set for slashers, because you can get away with more. I think slashers are meant to be fun and goofy. Even
Agreed.
with that lower set of expectations, these just fell completely flat, especially the first one.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yes. The first one was definitely easily the weakest of the 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know how should we kind of like go through what happens in each?
Yeah, I think because
Let's pick through it a little. Yeah.
yeah, it's surprising. I actually just about 30 minutes ago, I was looking at a poll that got posted on YouTube from a very reputable horror channel, asking what people's opinions of the Fear Street series were. And the way it was set up was which one was your favorite? And the answers were part 1, part 2, part 3, and I haven't seen any. And I was shocked to see that 70% chose I haven't seen them.
Interesting.
Because I feel like
Still
a lot
the
of attention is going around about this
It
series.
seems like it, yeah. And all these rave reviews,
Yeah, for sure.
For those unaware, the first has an 82% critic score, and the second has an 89% critic score, and the third has a 91% critic score.
Oh
Beat
my
me on
god.
that.
I got a bone
Which
to
is-
pick with that third movie, man.
No. Oh my god. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, like, criticism is dead or whatever. But that just seems completely off to me. Even if you're judging it as a like fun B movie, which is what ostensibly this is supposed to be.
Yeah.
It still falls so flat compared to, well, okay, so I'm just going to get into it a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the big influences that I see in this trilogy of movies, which we can get into later, but I personally don't think should have been a trilogy.
Yeah,
I think that there's yes, there's enough material for 3 movies, but there's not enough good material for 3 movies.
No,
and
not at
honestly,
all.
the twist at the end of 3 is kind of like, this could have been one movie. And in fact, I've seen that one movie and it's way better than this. But so one of the things that I kept kind of coming back to was sort of how similar this trilogy felt to the American Horror Story,
Right.
like anthology TV show, right? So because first of all, thematically, there are some elements that mirror it. There's the third movie is all takes place in like 1666, right? It's like burning witches, which is exactly a like Roanoke is a season of American Horror Story that deals with like witchcraft. And also there's another season that actually has young witches growing up in a house together.
The third season, Coven.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it was Coven Roanoke, and then the first movie is all about like there's like teens in a mall, and it's kind of like the typical like it's mid 90s, but it feels very much like that Stranger Things aesthetic because it's very much. First of all, they took a lot of actors from Stranger Things, so that probably also influenced it. But they've got the neon, they've got the like just the general vibe of it feels very Stranger Things as well.
Yeah,
so clearly that was an influence.
It's Diet Scream as well too.
Yes, well, yeah. So that's the thing is like American Horror Story season 1 was like Murder House, and that's what that basically felt like, and maybe a little bit of. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember. Maybe a little bit of Hotel. I don't know. But then the middle movie, the second movie, takes place at a summer camp, which is exactly American Horror Story. The season 1984 is all serial killers in a summer camp.
I didn't see that one. That's really funny.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there like I am not a huge fan of American Horror Story. I've watched all of them because there's something very fun about the way that they're like the way they do their thing. I have like honestly, I've probably hate watched them more than I've like enjoy watched them.
I understand that.
But yeah, like they do have a fun element of like I get what they're referencing, like I get the movies they're pulling from. They're kind of just like mashing a bunch of really fun horror movie tropes together in like a huge blender and just like spitting out this like super colorful, crazy, just like weird, like pastiche of like nonsense. Mm-hmm. And it's fun. It's a fun ride. This, I kept telling Saber and Lee and Mike while we were watching, this is just fucking watered down American Horror Story.
Dressed up in neon.
Yeah,
and licensed music.
Nostalgic effect.
Endless.
Endless. God.
Let's go ahead and
please rip into the
music. Like, for fuck's sake, if you're gonna stick a fucking licensed track in your fucking song, in your fucking movie, don't fucking play it for 20 seconds and then cut to the next fucking licensed track. I get it. It's the 90s or the fucking 70s or whatever. It is just obnoxious and dumb, and there's no artistic merit to it. It's just It's the shit from like the fucking, from what I've heard about Suicide Squad, of just this bombardment of hey, you recognize this song, and like the worst moment was when Lee was like, I bet they're gonna use Creep, and not 1 minute later they fucking use Creep.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, that's when I realized this was a cursed experiment. Was I should not be able to call a shot like that. I take no pride in being able to do that. Like, oh god, I can smell it coming. Radiohead is right around the corner. I can hear Creep coming. And
how sad is it that you did call it?
And they play it for
10 seconds later.
And then they play it for 30 seconds, and it's on to the next licensed song, because it's just there because 90s. And then, then according to IMDb, some of the songs didn't even come out in fucking 1990 fucking 4.
That's right.
And
That's right. IMDb has a bunch of like inconsistencies, like, or anachronisms listed, being like, oh, this song is played, but it came out the year after.
Yeah, it's not like Inglourious Bastards where Tarantino is making an artistic statement by playing a David Bowie song in World War II. This is just 90s.
It's trying to buy cheap favor from the audience with the power of nostalgia, which we see plenty of times before, and I'm glad we have a musician in this conversation here. But it strikes me as they are trying to imitate the success of the soundtrack from Guardians of the Galaxy. I know, completely different franchise, but
that movie also
Guardians
heavily on nostalgia.
Guardians was the first thing that when it came out, it shoved the soundtrack in your face aggressively with, going for the nostalgia pop factor of, the 70s and 80s. And it fucking worked because
it was built into the core narrative.
Yeah.
It was built into the core narrative, and it has like an emotional weight to it.
Then since then we've had Suicide Squad, and I think the Cruella movie too have been like lambasted for trying that and just failing to see like what actually made the Guardians soundtrack work.
Like when I watch Fear Street, and it's just this endless barrage of like licensed music, right? It's just white noise. It's just annoying. When I say like watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and they fucking start doing the intro of Fleetwood Mac's The Chain, as Chris Pratt is gathering his fucking strength to fight the big bad. And, he does the whole, you shouldn't have killed my mom and crushed my Walkman thing. And then it kicks off into the chorus as the fight starts. That is a powerful, emotional moment enhanced by the music. And there's none of that in this piece of shit.
Nope.
None of that.
Absolutely not.
They're definitely trying really hard, though.
When it's not licensed music, it is generic, dull. Because, then you also have the, the other element of it is that this is a horror movie.
Yeah.
Right? And you want a horror movie soundtrack to be creepy. And it's just this, like, without the licensed music, it's nothing. It flatlines.
I don't even remember the score.
Exactly. It's completely unmemorable and just, The only thing we remember about the score is how terrible the licensed songs were. And how they were chosen and how they were utilized.
And how we kept wishing for ancient Amazonian lamentations.
Naturally.
Honestly, yes.
But yeah, it's bottom of the barrel junk that is super easily predictable to an extent. Like that entire thing about C. Berman in part 1. And they kept making this big deal of not saying her fucking first name. And it's like, this is gonna be a twist. We're gonna find out that it's Ziggy, because fuck you, we're gonna make another David Bowie fucking reference. Or fucking we crack a joke in part 1. Oh, Sheriff Good, he's clearly the bad guy. And then what do you know? He's the bad guy. And then in part 3, I make a joke. It's like, all right, what's the stupidest fucking thing that they could do with this villain? Oh, I know. Let's have the villain say a homophobic slur so we hate him even more. And then what happens?
Yep.
Like,
yeah. Yeah. It's, to me, it's Yeah, it's just lousy writing, you know.
I have no.
So I guess let's dig in a little bit to the like plot, like the what happens, because I think maybe, yeah, that's super important to get back into, because there's not really a setup for like good being the bad guy or anything like that.
No, there's not.
I don't think there's any at all.
It's
like
dumb.
James making that joke was apropos of nothing. Like there was he was barely in the movie. The part one basically plays like a knockoff Halloween.
A knockoff Scream.
Yeah, a knockoff Scream. But yeah, it just there's a killer coming after them, and they're not sure why, and it turns out that like, oh, it's because we bled on this witch's bones, and now she wants to kill us.
Yeah.
So
these 300-year-old bones that are buried above ground under a pile of fucking leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what the inciting incident, for those who haven't seen it, it takes place in this quaint little area that has sort of feuding townships. There's Sunnyvale and Shadyside.
Yes.
And as the names would suggest, Sunnyvale is a place where everyone is preppy and things are perfect. There's no crime.
Mm-hmm.
It's a perfect, ideal little paradise. Next door is Shadyside, which is where all the rapscallions come from the other side of the tracks, and there's all kinds of school drama that goes on between the two. And it's during a prank gone wrong that that a bunch of kids uncover the shallow grave of a witch,
the
from
300-year-old shallow grave,
and by bleeding on her bones, have essentially reactivated her curse. Which they spend 3 films establishing our present day contemporary characters, and then go back in time to...
Hold on, because not really. They spend the first film doing that, and then for some reason we get a backstory on a minor character that lasts an entire film.
So we could find out where the hand is buried.
Yeah.
In the mall.
Because when you build a mall, you don't demolish it. You don't tear it down the tree. You just build it around the fucking tree.
Why would you do that?
Build around the tree, man.
You build around it.
You build it around, and nobody in the 300 years, nobody dug at the base of that tree. No animals dug at the base of that tree and carried off the fucking bones. No cops found it.
Nobody dug up that shallow grave either.
I mean, at least that's in the middle of the woods on the side of the road, not in the middle of a fucking mall.
Yeah.
It's God damn it, man.
But yeah, so the from that inciting incident spawns just essentially the curse is that this witch is now coming to hunt down and kill you. And she's specifically coming after, this is the witch is Sarah Fear, and she has your name scratched in a cave somewhere, and you are gonna die now that you've bled on her bones.
Sarah
and she's
Fear.
going, yeah.
Fear
Do you get it?
Do you get it?
Yeah,
Do you get it?
Wow.
Do you get it?
Some of the names I feel like I can kind of forgive, because that's very like, it's R.L. Stine. It's a kid's horror book. I'm like, I get it. Shadyside, Sunnyvale. It's cheesy and lame, but that's kind of
definitely not for kids, though.
Yes, it was not. But so then, yeah, what follows from that is an incredibly generic like slasher movie
with no body count.
With no body count.
We kind of mentioned at the time that it reminded us a little bit of the Chucky remake. The most recent one. Yeah. Because in that remake, there was one creative kill that we were like, okay, that's a Chucky kill. And then everything else was just like really terrible. There was one creative kill in the first Fear Street movie, and it was the
bread slicer.
The bread slicer. Yes, thank you.
Not to mention too, like they make this big plot point. They go, oh, she's only after so and so because so and so bled on her bones. She's specifically only after so and so. It's like, okay, then why did the killer kill the front desk nurse, kill the chick's boyfriend, kill the fucking drug orderly dude? Like, they weren't in the way. They weren't trying to stop him. It's like inconsistent horseshit. Those like and it's like those are the only 3 kills on top of like 2 thrown in at the very end of the movie. And it's like, I'm not expecting like a huge body count for a fucking slasher movie. Like, Halloween has, I think, like 6 kills the first Halloween. They're the entirety of the movie. And that movie is fine because it has atmosphere and mood. It's directed
because
well
it has
and
other
good
things
writing.
that make a movie good.
Yeah, and you're invested. Whereas this, it's like it's just luck. And like I think we went 40 minutes from like the first kill in the movie until like anything started to happen.
Yes, correct.
It was just endless cringe setup of just 90s horseshit and licensed music and just I'm a little kid using AIM and in chat rooms. And
using AIM in a font that did not exist in
in a font that
1994.
did not exist in 94.
By the way, in case anybody like thought this movie was well researched for using AIM, it was not.
No.
Also on like an HD monitor. I saw that and I was like, AIM has never looked so clear.
and with a keyboard that apparently doesn't plug into the back of the computer, since this elder sister is just able to yank the keyboard away and it doesn't get unplugged and it doesn't knock anything over.
Yeah, just you know, a great job really setting the time period.
you literally could have just ditched the 94. If you did not say that it took place in 94, I wouldn't have noticed for the most
difference.
part.
Yeah.
Hence why they drove it home again and again with the licensed music, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, no, they had to because they couldn't with the set dressing.
Yeah.
Do you guys want some 9 Inch Nails? I'd like to have a good, competent film. Fuck you, you're getting 9 Inch Nails.
Can we get some Limp Bizkit?
Just don't too closer. You're getting closer. God damn.
Yeah,
No.
That's it. Yeah, it's like God, fuck, man.
So to continue the plot of the first movie, by the end of it, they end up essentially seeking out. They sort of pull a Final Destination 2, where they're like, oh, there's one person, Sarah Fear Cursed, who survived this C. Berman, and we have to find her because essentially they think they've defeated her. They think they've got the killer, but then the main character's girlfriend or ex-girlfriend. Or no, they get back together in the movie,
yeah, they
right?
get back together, yeah.
Yeah, they get back together, but she gets zombified at the end. And they're like, oh no, the curse is still happening. We have to go find this C. Berman person. So they drive to Jillian Jacobs' house. And it was clearly Jillian Jacobs on the phone, and it's clearly Jillian Jacobs when she answers the door, and it's clearly Jillian Jacobs when we start the next movie, which is her backstory in a summer camp in the 70s. Is there anything important about the first movie that I missed before we move on to number 2? And somebody else describes what the fuck happens in number 2?
I don't remember.
Oh, there was that one scene where everyone started fucking before the like final confrontation with the zombies.
Yeah, we had that super awkward scene where fucking 17-year-old might have fucked a 12-year-old.
Yeah. It was incredibly
it's
like
the 90s, guys. It's fine.
It's fine. It's the 90s.
Open your mind.
Yeah, you know. It was
Live
very
and learn on the edge of tomorrow.
I remember watching that scene and just immediately being like, yes, a screenwriter wrote this. Because that's what that scene felt like. It felt like the most hand of the author I've ever seen in a movie.
I did remember one thing about that's super important, Kat, that happens in the first film because they do a callback to it in the third film, and that's the fact that the 12-year-old kid keeps saying the fucking Konami code.
Oh yeah, that's
when
right.
That happened in the third movie. I cringed so hard, but we'll get to it.
Oh, we'll get to it. All right. Part two. Who's gonna go? Who's gonna do it?
I would like to selflessly nominate Mikey.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm taking part 3. I'm taking part 3.
Fall on the sword, Ghoulgutts.
I'm taking part 3. Lee, you're getting Infinite Darkness. Spoilers for us talking about Infinite Darkness.
Son of a bitch.
Well, to be honest, I liked 756 a little bit more than the first one,
Same.
and there's a couple reasons why, and it's only loosely the plot. I did like the setting, the like campground like spooks. Like that's pretty classic and cool, but in terms of like what happens in this movie, I saw it. I was paying attention. It was paying some attention, but it's definitely not the clearest in my mind.
That's because it's basically an anime filler arc.
Yes. No, it really
it's
is.
a huge flashback arc. Yeah. Sure.
It's nothing advances the story outside of the hand is buried in this tree.
Yes. And it's extremely unfortunate too, because it is more entertaining than the first one. And there's better kills and there's better characters.
Yeah.
So,
Then there's
yeah.
also the really awkward color war.
Oh my god.
We'll
What
get there.
was that? What
We'll get to the race war in a second.
Oh my god.
dude.
I think all of us just our jaws dropped when they're like the color war, because as we were saying, Sunnyvale is like the rich town and nothing bad happens there, and Shadyside is the town that's
Full
super
of brown
crime
people.
ridden. Yeah, and that's basically
Exactly.
it. Sunnyvale is basically filled with a bunch of white people, and then Shadyside is filled with the minorities, and it's the same way in the 78 film.
Oh my
So it's like
God.
you see the summer camp that has people from both towns, and it's like there's the Sunnyvale side and the Shadyside side, and they do this fucking things happen at summer camp where it's like, you do like little competitions like capture the flag or whatever. Okay, that's fine. But they
Yeah.
specifically call it a color war. And it's supposed to be because one side is wearing blue shirts and the other side is wearing red shirts.
Well, and it was like a paintball fight.
Yeah, and there was the paintball thing too. But
And
like,
you're just like, oh,
at the
why would you call it that?
but yeah, why at the same time again, it's like, what the fuck? Why?
It's extremely
Yeah.
tone deaf.
Yeah.
It's super tone deaf. It's like I agree with you that it's definitely like the more interesting of the three movies, because like at least the characters
Paced better.
it's paced better. The characters are are somewhat likable, at least. Kind of
Sure.
like, I mean, I kind of hated most of them and was groaning throughout shit, but like the whole thing with like Ziggy and young Nick Good and like Ziggy's sister or whatever, and like then and there was like some character arc shit that wasn't happening in the first movie.
Yeah.
Like, there was like just like the whole crux of the first movie, the reason why the main character and her ex are broken up is because the ex
she's from Shadyside, right?
yeah, she's from Shadyside and she moved to Sunnyvale because her mom decided to move to Sunnyvale, but
It's very
the main
Montague and Capulet.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the main character blames her ex for moving, and it's like, sure, I mean, high schoolers can be petty ass bitches, sure, but like, it's really dumb.
It is very dumb.
It's
Dumb. It's dumb for a narrative. I have definitely. I think when we were watching the movie, like I mentioned to you guys some of the high school drama I dealt with, where I was like, no, I believe this. This is pretty realistic, actually. But it's still kind of like that's her character
arc.
Exactly. That's the main thrust of your character arc, is learning to forgive your girlfriend for moving
to a city that's basically like 5 miles away.
Stones throw. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, like I get it, they're teenagers, but yeah. So-
Yeah, the second movie definitely had a stronger plot and like actual things happening in
Yes.
the story.
Yeah.
And as you said, James, there is like character like arcs, like move in there, and the
Mhm.
like the Berman siblings like being like being the forefront of the story like gave the movie like room to breathe and like build a drama that like led to you caring a little more when everybody started dying, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the first movie I don't really feel like had any consideration to pace in that way.
Absolutely not. No, it also didn't in like not that a horror movie has to endear you to its main characters at all.
Sure.
But it didn't even give us anything to latch on. Like they didn't have any meat to them. You know, there was really
Yeah.
nothing to them. You didn't really buy their relationships. You didn't like at least the people in the 70s all like the sisters felt like sisters.
Yeah,
The
definitely,
friends
yeah.
felt like friends. You know, the fucking in the first movie, that like drug dealer chick and her cousin or whatever, and
Cousin,
then like
boyfriend.
the boyfriend and the siblings, and like, you know, like the only thing that felt somewhat real was the girlfriend dynamic, but even that was just like pretty weak.
Yeah.
Like I didn't buy it really that much. Like I
Yeah.
bought it more so than every other relationship in the first movie, but you know,
The second
to
movie,
that point, then the second movie was like, whoa, okay,
yeah, the second movie we get that goody two shoes Berman thing where we find out that she narked on her friend and her friend is super
Mhm.
pissed about it and
Mhm.
giving her shit throughout the entire movie, and it's like that feels more like a character drama sort of thing that we can
Mhm.
kind of latch onto than you moved like 6 blocks away, I hate you now.
yeah,
Fucking
Yeah.
Christ.
and yeah. So the movie opens with one of the Seabermans being bullied, right?
Yeah.
They like tie her to a tree and almost beat her, or they do beat her, I
And they
think.
burn
And-
her.
Yeah, they were
Yeah,
gonna
they-
like light her
yeah,
on
they burn her.
fire.
They singe her with a lighter.
That's right. Yeah, they singe her, and then I want to say that young Sheriff Good saves her.
Yeah,
That's
him
right,
and
yeah.
him and another counselor come over,
Yeah.
and somehow Ziggy is the one who's getting in trouble, not
Yeah.
the kids who were about to murder somebody.
yeah. It's just weird.
Like,
There's very much a mob rules sort of thing going on with the camp. It feels kind of like, you know, its own little lawless society forming,
Yeah.
all the like Lord of the Flies.
yeah, because there's no
Exactly.
fucking adults anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where
Oh,
is
yeah.
everyone's
Clowns
parents?
are running the circus.
Yeah, that is the other thing. Fear Street 1 and 2, no adult characters whatsoever. Except Fear Street 1 had the sheriff for like a
3
split second.
scenes.
Yeah, like 3 scenes. Other than that, nobody has mom and dad aren't there. There's like a
Everybody's a
post-it
latchkey
note
kid.
on a yeah. No,
No,
like, no
don't-
parents.
Don't forget, no, there is one parent.
You're right,
There's
the mom.
There's one.
Oh yeah,
and
the
it's
bigoted
homophobe.
mom. Yeah, it's the
the homophobic mom. That's right.
Yeah, so you're only
Mhm.
allowed to have one grown-up character, but
Mhm.
they have to be bigoted towards
Yes.
other characters.
Yeah,
And I will say that's a point in the third movie's favor, because at the very least, the third movie, there are a ton of adults.
it feels like they were trying to basically do like, let's do Stephen King's It, because that had a movie about kids, but we also saw their parents
Yeah.
multiple times.
Yeah, like it was very clear in that movie that like there's a magical element of childhood where like you escape from kind of like your parents telling you what to do, and you get like brief moments of freedom in the wild, right? And that's really what like a lot of it follows, right? But like
Mhm.
the parents are still very much a part of their lives and very clearly controlling of their lives. You know, like you see Eddie and his mom, and like, you know, Bill's parents and stuff like that. It's just like, yes, and God, Beverly's dad, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, yes, there's very clearly that if we're not directly seeing them in scenes, we're at least feeling their presence in some regard, right?
Yep.
And this movie didn't even bother to do that. It was like, and I can definitely see like one set of kids being latchkey kids who are just getting post-it notes from mom and dad. whatever, like that's fine. You give him a little bit more freedom. But then there's also like the drug dealer girl who's just like free to do whatever the fuck she wants, and like every single teen in the movie just has no consequences to anything they're doing because parents just don't exist in this universe.
No, they don't. It's
but it fits more with the summer camp aesthetic because that is kind of, you know, the monkeys are running the circus, like Lee said.
Yeah. I mean, you'd still expect there to be
the clowns are running the circus.
Yeah,
clowns running the circus.
You'd still expect there to be more than just the nurse as an adult at a fucking summer camp where you're sending all your goddamn kids.
Oh my god, the nurse! I forgot about her. The nurse is the one who has like the book that talks about the Debbul.
It has the treasure map to the Debbul.
The Debbul.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, big surprise. I'm right, and the turns out Ziggy is C. Berman, and that the one who the movie kept trying to hint was C. Berman, the Goody Two Shoes sister, because her name was like Christine or Carol or Cadillac or some shit like that.
Both of their names begin with C.
Yeah, but we don't find out Ziggy's real name until the end, so they could do this. Oh, aren't we clever? It's a twist. It's a twist. It's like we see it coming because you made such a big fucking deal of it in the first fucking movie. You didn't fucking say her name at all. Like, God fucking damn it.
Yeah. But so eventually shit hits the fan in the second movie. Zombies start coming after I forget who it was who actually bled on the bones. I think it was the friend, right? That got narked on?
No.
No, it was Christine or whatever. Cadillac Berman.
Cindy?
I can't remember which one of the two bled on the bones. I know one of them bleeds on it. One of the Bermans bleeds on the bones.
That's how memorable this story is, folks.
Yeah. Essentially, the same thing happens that happened in the first movie, which is just what we expected. But we actually see more of the kind of like zombification process, the how Sarah is gaining control of these people.
And essentially Ziggy is the one who bled.
Oh, okay, thank you. And essentially it's she takes over other characters. So she takes over like two of the counselors, two of the boys, and they just start murdering, basically. And we got a couple really creative kills out of it.
And they killed some kids off screen.
Mm-hmm. They killed some kids off screen, but we also got a face caved in.
Yeah.
By a hammer or some shit.
Yeah, we got some neat stuff with an axe, so it wasn't just generic stabbings.
Yeah.
And that's not even to say that you need creative kills for a good slasher movie if your slasher movie is good enough. But again, like these first two movies are billed as slashers, and they're like mostly not. Like
I feel like
they're so padded.
Yeah.
You don't need a 2-hour slasher.
I feel like for a good slasher, you either need a really charismatic like killer, right? Or like a killer that's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Or you need creative kills, or both, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like most of the successful ones have some combination of the two.
And this cast of characters was not it.
No.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Like
no.
let's run down our list of killers. We got Skullface, whose thing is he has a skull face.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's totally not Ghostface from Scream.
Yeah.
God,
Totally
yeah.
not. Sackface.
Tommy Slater. Who apparently goes by Nightwing. He takes the name of the camp as a killer.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
And he was fine.
It's fine.
He was fine. He was an unstoppable juggernaut in the second movie.
He's basically fucking potato sack Jason Voorhees from Friday 2.
Correct. You've got the girl who whistles and has a butterfly knife.
Yeah.
Who does a whole lot of nothing.
Ruby something?
Ruby Rod. Ruby Rod.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
okay.
You got her. You got little kid with a baseball bat who literally does nothing.
Does absolutely nothing. And then
you've got creepy burn face Mick sexual predator.
I don't even remember that one.
Yeah, I don't remember that one at all.
He's he's the guy in the jumpsuit with a knife and his face is all like scarred over, and he's about to try and kill someone in the third movie, but like licks their face first.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So he's the sex pest.
Mhm.
And then there was the big like road warrior guy with a metal mask.
Oh
in the
yeah.
third movie.
Yes.
Just
oh man, so memorable.
You tried to build this rogues gallery of characters and you dropped the ball on all but one of them. Like Jesus. And the one that succeeded is a dude in a burlap sack with an axe.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we see a bunch of like fucking shitty MTV flash cut footage of most of these killers. And then when they do show up, it's like they literally do nothing. Like the stupid kid with the baseball bat, he literally just stands there smacking the bat against his hand, like, and that's it. He doesn't do anything.
So menacing.
89% on Rotten Tomatoes. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, right. Okay, so Mike.
With disappointment.
With disappointment, ding ding. Let's see. I recall the climax of the second one being the Ziggy character and the druggy girl. They're in the moss covered cave below the outhouse house and such, and if I remember correctly, as they come out, is when our character Good shows back up, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was the goody two shoes Berman in the cave.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because because the outhouse is built on top of secret witch caves.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
you just poop,
secret witch caves.
You poop directly into
That you
secret
shit
witch
on.
caves.
That's
that
why she
won't
was
make the
upset.
witches angry.
The whole franchise,
89% on Rotten Tomatoes.
89%.
Pretty great.
But yeah, both the Berman sisters die at the end.
Yeah.
But then Ziggy gets rescued. She gets like
Resuscitated.
Yeah,
somebody
they do
resuscitates
like
her. I want to say it was
CPR.
good.
They do like CPR on her, and
They
we're
give
making
her
fun of
CPR
it.
to get her living again after she got like stabbed.
Yeah.
In the heart.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Yeah. Which also is not the first time I've seen that as the loophole for, oh, something's after you to kill you. Literally, the movie Countdown. Do you guys know that one?
No.
No, I don't. Never seen that one.
It's terrible. But it's about an app that you download on your phone and it tells you when you're gonna die. And literally when you're going to die is like some monster, like once you get the app, like some demon is gonna come like murder you and steal your soul. And the way the main character thwarts it is she literally stops her own heart and then like restarts it with like an adrenaline shot.
Yeah, they did that again in Final Destination 2.
Yeah. I mean that's 100% where Countdown got it. Countdown's from like last year. But,
and they did it in
yes.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes.
Only death releases you from the vows of the Night's Watch.
That's right.
John
That's
dies.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Although
Yeah,
at least in Final Destination's case, it was in the deleted ending for Final Destination 3. There's a newspaper blurb that confirms that didn't work and the two characters were killed off screen. Because Final Destination is fucking awesome.
That's great.
They're just like, no, this didn't work. I think
see,
they died in a
that's-
barbecue explosion or something.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It's a slasher movie with really creative kills. No killer, really creative kills.
Yeah.
That's all you need. That's what you need. One or the other, or like arguably both is the best combination, but one or the other. These movies have neither.
So are we on to the third one now?
Oh fuck, yes we are.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the exploits of the third film, The Adventures of John Proctor and Abigail Williams.
Yeah, it's Diet Crucible / Diet the Witch slash
Oh
The
gosh.
Village.
Okay,
The
wait,
Village.
yeah, no, let's
The
talk about the
Village.
witch. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the witch because
It's the elephant in the room.
yeah, because I think very clearly. So, okay, so first of all, we have to also say the kind of Mike mentioned this at the top of the podcast, but just to circle back to it, the characters who are playing the characters in 1994, or the actors who are playing the characters in 1994, also play the characters in 1666.
Yeah.
And it's done in like a sort of like a illusion-esque kind of thing. Like you see a shot of Sarah Fear looking into a water bucket. You see her reflection is some
Some random chick.
white Protestant chick. But the actual person, the actual actor, is the main character from the rest of the trilogy, or from the first movie of the trilogy, right? And so from there it proceeds, and I don't want to hate on these kids as actors because
I do.
they are young.
No, fuck them.
Well, they're young, and they're definitely being given a pretty substantial
It's a weight
task
to
to
carry.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like Sadie Sink. Ziggy. I loved her in Stranger Things. I like her in this series.
Yes.
Yeah, she's
yes.
fine.
She's great. She's great. I also didn't necessarily hate the acting of the main character, but they decided to make all of the characters attempt a sort of 1600s like North American
North American.
Protestant
Yeah.
settler. Yeah.
What is the
They-
accent?
They essentially tried to imitate the accents that you hear in The Witch, which supposedly is a very well researched, very historically accurate accent style, following from the people who are descended from those people, and that kind of regional accent, how that would have evolved from the Middle English times kind of thing.
Yeah.
But again, it comes across as a high school production of The Witch, where, honestly, it would have been better if everyone just spoke in their normal speaking voice. Just speak the highfalutin words without attempting an accent.
It's some
yeah.
of the worst fucking accents.
It
I have
genuinely
heard
is,
in a
and she
film.
sounds so uncomfortable speaking like that. She sounds like she's trying to gargle while reading her lines, and I'm like, just let the girl read her lines and act. Don't.
You cannot hide. We know you made a compact with the devil.
yeah. It's
And every time she says the devil, it sounds like the devil.
Yeah, it's
And-
unfortunate.
Yeah. And I mean, I should say too that The Witch also had child actors who absolutely fucking slayed, right?
Killed
so
that shit. Yeah.
so that there is there's definitely something to be said for I mean, I know Anya Taylor-Joy obviously is astounding, and then the actor who played her younger brother just does a fantastic job, including the accent work. So it's just kind of, it can be done, sure, but you kind of got to understand the chops of your actors and kind of give them what they can handle.
All right, so the plot of 1666 is Sarah Fear is a fucking teenager in Union, because this is before Shadyside and Sunnyvale were two separate towns, and it's called Union. Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it?
I don't get it.
No, I don't get it.
And then they go to some party late in the woods and have
they do.
and they speak in code to know if they're going to the party or not, because sure. And then they all get high on like drug grapes. And then Sarah Fear goes off with another girl, and it turns out that Sarah Fear and this other girl are in love with each other, and they kind of start banging, and then they get interrupted. And then the spooky witchcraft stuff happens. And it's like, oh my god, it's the devil. Oh my god, what is happening? Oh my god, what is happening? And, it's Die at the Crucible, where people start making accusations. And I will give the movie one thing, there's that one effective scene where they're all where the pastor took all the kids into the chapel.
Yes.
And
the
locked
pastor
it.
has been like infected with something. That's
Yeah.
the Sarah Fear's girlfriend's dad.
Yeah. He woke up with a bad case of the Debbul.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the descendant of Sheriff Good goes inside, and we find that all the kids are dead and they have their eyes gouged out, and the pastor has his eyes gouged out, and then they immediately associate it with the party and this one dude who was trying to be like a sex pervert to Sarah Fear's girlfriend. Blames her because he got rejected, and then they're like, oh yeah, she's clearly a witch, even though like all the other kids are like, no, this is a load of shit. And
Wait, hold on, James. I don't think it was the old timey Sheriff Good. I think it was somebody else, because Sheriff Good lives out in the woods.
yeah, but
right?
he was in town at the time. Because,
okay.
Yeah, he lives out in the woods, but he was in town at the time. I'm pretty sure it was him.
We should extra mention that the
old timey.
The OG Good lives out in the woods
Because he wants to make new land or farm on unlivable land or some shit.
He's trying to farm unfarmable land, but he's just like, no, I moved all the way out here. I'm not going to just like turn tail and go back to town and give up.
I'm committed at this point. I'd be silly.
Yeah,
they'd all laugh at me.
Oh, and I almost forgot. Earlier in the movie, there's like this old lady that Sarah Fear stumbles across who lives in town, who has a book on the Debbul.
No, it's the lady where they go get the berries, the
drug berries.
Yeah.
Yes.
Drug berries from,
drug
yeah.
berries, yes.
She's the witch.
She's the witch, but also not the witch, because this movie's dumb.
Yep.
Well, not the witch, quote, but yeah.
And then, let's see, and then Sarah Fear tries to escape with her girlfriend, and her girlfriend gets caught, and Sarah Fear is like, if they want witchcraft, I'll give them witchcraft. And she decides to sneak into the old lady's house and steal the book so she can, like, do witchcraft. And she finds the book is missing.
With the devil.
Yeah, she finds the book missing and the old lady dead. And then OG Sheriff Good stumbles across her, and they go into the secret tunnel. And it turns out OG Sheriff Good is the witch. And he used the book to curse somebody in town to get his land to be, like, farmable and shit. And he's like, yo, join me. And Sarah Fear's like, no, fam. And then they get into a little scuffle. And somehow he manages to chop off her hand with
he
stupid knife
he partially cuts it, and then she rips the rest of it off.
Right.
Pretty brutal.
And
and we were joking. We were like, see, 127 hours, guy. It's that easy.
Yeah. And then she goes back to the town, and then he appears, and he's like, I caught the witch. And they're gonna, like, hang her and her girlfriend, and she makes an impassioned plea about how her girlfriend's innocent. And they just arbitrarily decide to let her girlfriend live, because that's totally how the witch trials worked.
Even though they killed the last person who was afflicted by the devil.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they
left her alone.
And then they hang Sarah Fear, and Sarah Fear, like, as she's dying, makes her curse upon OG Sheriff Good. So it turns out Sarah Fear is the witch, but also not the witch, because it doesn't make any sense, because she has no powers in witchcraft. She has nothing. She's literally nothing. And
her hatred becomes magic.
Her hatred becomes magic. And the entire first hour of this movie is trying to make it seem as if she's just like an innocent victim in all of this. And it's like, no, because if you bleed on her bones...
Yeah, she comes and kills you.
She comes and kills you. No, like, that's... And
you're telling me that... okay, so yeah. Continue, because I'm gonna I'm gonna circle back to that point eventually.
Yeah, and then we cut to the present where the main character now realizes that the good family are evil. Because why not? They're now like a family of witches.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think it was clear how she was seeing this flashback.
I think it's because she put the hand back, and that's Seraphir.
Okay.
Yeah. And then conveniently Nick Good shows up as they're putting the hand back, and without even knowing that what they've experienced, he all of a sudden starts acting creepy and evil.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. Because magic. And then they go and reunite with C. Berman and tell her, yeah, that dude you kind of liked at summer camp is evil. Because why not? And it turns out his whole family is evil. And it turns out that the firstborn male of the family sacrifices somebody from Shadyside for power or whatever. And Nick Good, I guess, all he wanted to be was the sheriff of a small town. You have the power of the devil, and you can sacrifice and get anything you want.
Sacrificed him for a job.
And it's
for a job most people can just get.
and then giving your brother the job with more power. He made his brother the mayor.
Yeah. And
that was a clever ploy to throw the scent off, obviously.
That'll trick the devil.
Yeah, and then they recruit this minor throwaway character from the first movie because everybody else is dead from the fucking Seraphir zombies, but Seraphir's totally fucking innocent, you guys. And because he was being arrested for allegedly spray painting. And then we get then they're like, okay, we're gonna lure Nick Good to the mall because why not?
We get essentially the exact same like
Home Alone
second
scene.
act it's like halfway point to third act as we did in the first movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay guys, let's lure the zombies to this spot. Yeah. And then like try to kill him.
Yeah.
It's literally the exact. They even have the exact same like final moment of hope, except they're not all fucking this time. They're just having jokes. And I was like, you guys, do you even see how hackneyed the script is? Like,
no, they don't. Because then we also get an obligatory scene, as if the stakes aren't high enough, and as if we don't need a reason to hate Nick Good enough. We find out that he's been framing this random dude for spray painting. Because why not? Mm-hmm. That's sure. And then two Randy cops show up, and again, they get murdered, despite the fact that they're after the main character now. So they just got two innocent Randy cops killed for no fucking reason, because this movie needed a bigger fucking body count.
Yeah.
It did.
And then they basically they rip off Carrie and cover Nick Good in blood of the main character.
Yeah, they give the main character's blood so that Seraphir's zombies will go after him.
Yeah, and then the zombies get like are basically pathetic and do nothing of value except for mildly harass the supporting cast. And the main character goes down into the basement of the mall, which also conveniently leads to the witch tunnels. And gets into a fight with her zombie girlfriend, but then knocks her out with a rock. And then fights the sheriff. And then the sheriff, as if we didn't need a reason to hate him already, because this is a hack screenplay from a hack fucking writer, just goes full homophobe in like 60 seconds before he dies, because
he calls her the D word, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then she kills him, and her girlfriend is safe, and the witch tunnels lead to his mansion, because apparently he has a mansion. Why not?
The sheriff of a small town has a mansion.
Yeah.
Why not?
At least he used his devil powers to give himself a mansion.
You know what? That's true.
At least.
I almost forgot, because it was so fucking important, to the plot. You know, the younger brother and the main character goes like, recite the Konami code, it'll make you feel better. So then she recites the Konami code during all this stupid shit.
No, hold on. She says, "What's the Konami code?" And he just kind of like explains what it is, but not like what the actual code is.
Yeah.
And then like 2 scenes later, she recites the actual Konami code. It's like 2 scenes ago, you didn't even know what the fuck the Konami code was. How do you know? How do you know the combination now?
Yeah.
Like,
and then the final scenes of the movie is like the dude who is being framed by the cop is illegally selling shit out of the back of his trunk to a bunch of students. The mayor, I guess, got disgraced, and Sheriff Good has been known as the killer all along. And the younger brother meets his AOL friend who he's been crushing on, and they talk about solid state drives in 1994. And then the main character and her girlfriend have a picnic at the above ground leaf grave of Sarah Fear. And then we get a stinger for a potential sequel where somebody steals the book from the evidence scene of the crime scene.
You know what I thought after I saw the whole Fear Street trilogy? This movie could use a 4th movie sequel.
Yeah, it's like literally you just tighten up the first movie and you take the entire first hour of part 3 and condense it to like 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then condense the final last hour of part 3 into like, I don't know, 20-30 minutes, and you stick that 40 to 50 minutes onto part 1, and you have not necessarily a good movie, but you don't you won't have wasted 6 hours of your fucking life.
This is the Hobbit trilogy of horror.
Yeah. No, really, it's literally half filler.
Yeah.
Literally half filler.
And we watched it all for your entertainment.
That we fucking did.
Well, we turned it into your entertainment because...
Yeah.
Well,
hopefully y'all enjoy us just being angry for a bit, because I was very much like, I don't want to just hate on a bunch of films, but I have nothing positive to say about this trilogy. I know it's scoring very, very high.
Yeah.
I'll play devil's advocate a little bit. I'll say a few things I did like.
Excuse me, Lee. You're gonna play Debbul's advocate.
Yes, my mistake. I will play devil's advocate. I will say that tonally, even though in the grand scheme it didn't matter, the tone set in the camp sequences was really nice. It felt like a good campground slasher movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
When there were kills and they were on camera, very, very nice effects.
Yes.
It's very refreshing to see like a character get hit with an axe, and a good effect of the axe like going into and out of their body, and leaving a good looking gash.
Or like a head busting open, brain splattering out. I was like, oh shit, that's pretty good.
The movies didn't pull many punches when it came to this thing's taking place in a campground full of kids. Fuck it, time to kill these kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, okay, so that does bring me to, I think, the one good thing I will say about it is I do like, I'm a big fan of The Witch. I like period horror, like period type dramas. And I do think that this was probably the first I've seen where they didn't shy away at all from just like massacring a church full of children, like actual children.
Yeah, that was neat.
Very shocking scene.
And they actually showed it too. They showed the kids dead with their eyes gouged out. They showed the parents coming in and like discovering what had happened and screaming. Some of the best acting from the main character was finding her brother dead. I was like, Yeah. Okay. Good job.
Yep.
Like I will give them that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I
Sure.
do agree with you, Lee, there. But
Everything, everything about that entire like back in time sequence can fuck right off. And
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
my-
there's obvious visual parallels to The Witch. I am not the
Yes.
best person to comment on that because I saw that movie once.
Mhm.
I was apparently heavily inebriated and would not stop telling my younger brother how much I wanted to fuck Anya Taylor-Joy. That's
Okay.
about all I remember.
my
Yeah.
one other counterpoint though to your counterpoint, Lee,
Well, The Village too is a good one.
Yes.
Is,
Right. There's a
um,
lot of similarities to The Village.
is that when we cut back to the present day, it says 1994 part 2, so this entire trilogy can fucking die.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
I
listen,
was so
that felt like an
fucking mad.
actual
Saber was pissed.
that genuinely
so
felt like an
fucking
actual
mad.
American Horror Story gag because I'm pretty sure they basically did that for Apocalypse. Sorry, I know. I was like, Kat, don't constantly bring up American Horror Story while we're watching this, and then I just constantly brought it up, and then now I'm constantly bringing it up on the podcast. But really, that's what this
It
reminds
makes sense.
me of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm having trouble disengaging from that.
Well,
even
you
though I know.
you know what this reminds me of?
Hmm.
Fear, because fear is the root of terror.
No,
And-
no.
Lee, tell us about Infinite
There you go.
Darkness, because fuck Fear Street. We're done bitching about it. I want to get to something that's less shit.
Are
Boy,
we not
will I.
gonna? Oh wait, are we not gonna segue to another thing
Well, we're
that we want to talk? Okay, that's
we're
the end?
saving that for the end because that's something
Okay,
that
alright.
I want to
End
gush
on a
about.
good note.
Yeah, and on a good note. Cool. I'll shut up.
All
then.
right. Yeah. So this other one we watched. Oh boy. I guess I'll just start with a brief rundown of the plot synopsis. Childhood friends Julianne Potter and Michael O'Neill had a deal to marry each other if they were still single by age 28. Now, 4 days before her 28th birthday, O'Neill announces he's marrying a gorgeous 20-year-old named Kimberly. Suddenly realizing that she's actually in love with him, Julianne vows to stop the wedding at all costs. Julia Roberts, Storm Mulroney, and Cameron Diaz star in this delightful romp of a picture, My Best Friend's Wedding. I'm sorry, we're talking about Resident Evil Infinite Darkness.
Lee, I hate you.
Resident Evil Infinite Darkness is a Netflix CG entry into the Resident Evil films, following in the same trend as a few others that have starred Leon Kennedy in the starring position. This one takes place in between 4 and 5 and does a little bit of winking and nodding to set up the events of 5. But it kind of overall just strikes the same chord for me as the rest of the animated films that came before it, that it's just enough to scratch that itch of like seeing your favorite characters doing cool shit. But overall, in the grand scheme, it makes absolutely no impact on the franchise itself.
And they did clear dirty.
Yeah.
And they did clear
did.
very dirty.
Yes.
I mean, Infinite Darkness had a decent concept to start with. The plot, for those of you who have not seen it, centers around a government op gone wrong. A group of soldiers, I believe called the Mad Dogs, were trying to escape from enemy territory. It was very Black Hawk Down feeling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And wound up trying to smuggle out someone who was infected with the virus.
Mm-hmm.
And hilarity ensues. Is the only way to put it. It's
Put
broken
it
down
mildly,
into
yeah.
4. It's broken down into 4 episodes. Each was about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like 22 minutes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wound up feeling shorter than if it was just a full-length film, which is probably why they cut it up in pieces.
Yeah. And honestly, it didn't the pacing was pretty good. In terms of we were constantly surprised that like, oh my god, that's the end of the episode kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like,
They did
pacing,
come quick.
Yeah.
I felt we were
wise, it knew how to hit those beats.
yes. And I felt we were engaged enough all the way through. Even if
Yeah, there
ultimately-
was never a moment when an episode ended that we were all like, or like, are we doing the next one?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
it
It
was-
clips along for sure.
Yeah. So the story takes us through a little bit of like West Wing political stuff in the White House. to a very engaging sequence on a submarine where we get a little bit of RE4-ish action sequence. And then into the meat and potatoes of the story, which is the shadow politics going on behind the scenes of the government and some corrupt politicians and the last surviving member of this gang of soldiers who is harboring the infection within himself. I mean, I don't really know what to say about it other than it feels like somebody gave money to a fan fiction and got it produced. And then Capcom is happy to remind us that this is completely canon. Just like, thanks.
Because like I was telling Kat this last night, literally like 99.9% of this franchise is canon. The only game that I know of that is non-canon is fucking Resident Evil Gaiden.
Oh my
That's
god.
it. Survivor.
The Game Boy Boat one?
Yeah, Game Boy Boat one. That's the only non-canon game as far as I'm aware.
Wow.
Survivor, canon. Dead Aim, canon. Umbrella Corps, probably. I think I actually read Umbrella Corps was fucking canon. Operation Raccoon City has a non-canon ending for sure, but like,
yeah,
Damn.
it's like the 3 movies are canon. This show is canon. I mean, I would not be surprised if it wasn't for the fact that Paul Anderson like took shit so far off the rails, if Capcom would have incorporated his series as canon.
Jeez.
It's weird. It's wild.
There's something about these movies, these CG films. I've only seen Damnation and this new series, but as far as the Resident Evil movies and the like extended universe, or I guess I can't even say that because as Saber just said, it's all canon. But there's something about it. It's just never gotten my attention. It's never really gripped me, and unfortunately this series was in that boat. It was fun, and it was especially fun to watch it with you guys, but if I had seen it alone, I doubt that I would have finished it, which is kind of lame. It's kind of sad.
I just want to know who blew up that house.
Yeah, right? There was like an earthquake, and then it was like, oh, the house exploded. And we were like, what? Wait, what? And they never went back to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of continuity errors in this thing. And a lot of unexplained shit.
And a very underwhelming antagonist.
Oh, yes.
Who falls into acid twice.
It's terrible.
Yeah. James and I had been talking a little bit on that subject before we started the podcast, and essentially our conclusion was just that it kind of just comes down to the fact that like Resident Evil as a video game series is very much kind of I wouldn't say the stories are bad or the writing is bad, but it's definitely not the only thing keeping you around. Right?
Yeah.
Whereas a film kind of does have to live or die based on the quality of its writing. And I feel like just the extended universe of the CGI movies and certainly the live action movies just really doesn't like hold up, like doesn't live up to snuff.
Yeah.
You know, where it's just kind of, oh yeah, like this is a fun romp. I think there were some moments that we definitely called out as being clever visually, for sure. I remember that first episode had a moment where when the soldiers like started turning to zombies.
Yeah,
that was really cool. Yeah, that was a really, really like interesting shot. But yeah, ultimately it ends with just another like musclehead nemesis type villain who could talk and was just railing on and on about fear.
Fear is the root of terror.
Yeah, I will make people feel fear. And you're like, okay.
And then Claire does nothing for 4 episodes. Except tied to a chair.
she was in
Tragic.
a room with a crazy board, the like where she's got all the stuff pinned up with like red string tying everything together.
Mhm.
She's got a crazy conspiracy board.
Yeah.
Then she goes to a haunted house for like 10 minutes, and then she comes back to her crazy board, and then she goes to the villain's lair and gets kidnapped.
And then becomes a
This
damn.
is actually what happened. That's
Yeah.
actually what happened.
Oh, and then she
my
then,
God.
And
then
this is Claire Redfield, hardened badass.
Dude.
Yeah.
This is after the events of Code Veronica.
and then
Dude.
she and Leon have an arbitrary falling out at the end of the series, which is
Oh, yeah, of
which is
God.
patched up presumably at some point relatively soonish. I don't
And
fucking know.
wasn't that spat because he works for the government?
It was because he had like the data that I guess members of the U.S. government were responsible for that bioterrorist attack, even though like we already
Right.
know that the U.S. government was responsible because they had dealings with
Yeah.
Umbrella, and like
Yeah,
this
right.
this is like, all right, this is not anything new or noteworthy, and Claire was like, we need to leak the data, and Leon throughout the entire series like, yeah, we're gonna leak the data, we're gonna find out who did it, we're gonna tell the truth, and then the last episode he's just like, last scene he's just like, no fam, we're gonna hang on to it. Don't worry about
We're just gonna hang on to it. Trisell, lol.
it. Yeah. and yeah, it was bad. It was silly, but it's better than Fear Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's
Well-
fucking shocking is that this series is better than Fear Street, and I don't
I don't even
have
remember
much
any
to
of it.
say about Infinite Darkness.
Yeah.
It is
Unfortunately,
straight
same.
up like, are you a fan of the franchise? It's less than 2 hours. Just go for it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're not a fan of the franchise? You can miss it.
Yep.
And that's better than Fear Street.
I'd say,
Yeah.
oh, you're not a fan of the franchise? Well, it's less than 2 hours. If you're bored, why not? There's worse things you can watch, like Fear
Yeah.
Street.
Like Fear Street. Yeah, it didn't waste 6 hours of my freaking time.
Yeah, it was over and done with in like a little under 2 hours.
Yep.
Yes, like
And there were some fun sequences. I think the rats on the boat or on the submarine rather were
that was-
excellent.
Yeah, that was good.
Um,
The
little
zombie
too
sequence in the
heavy-handed
White
with
House sucked.
yeah, it was a little too heavy-handed with the politics, trying to like make comments about our modern day society.
Yeah.
All of the like U.S. versus China fear right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a little heavy-handed for what it was. For it's a fucking Resident Evil movie. Like, chill a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
let's have some fun. But you can chill out. Like, I'm all for the social commentary about like the power of pharmaceutical giants.
Yeah.
Which has always been a massive backdrop of Resident Evil.
Yeah.
And then like the little stinger of Tricell at the end to set up Wesker and Excella and 5. Awesome. Good little setup. But yeah, it needed to be a little less political, a little more scary. But
Yep.
overall, much less offensive than the 6-hour abomination that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we now move over to the third thing, which
Yeah.
is something that was
So
yeah.
yeah. Okay. So to tie this in, I when we were watching the third Fear Street, and I don't remember who said this.
It's late.
Yeah. Okay. So it was Lee. Lee had made a guess at the very tail end of the back in time part of the 1666 part of Fear Street Part 3, where Lee had kind of made an offhanded comment of, oh, maybe them hanging her as a witch is what like turned her into a witch, or what like what gave her the power to do all of this like evil shit.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately I thought of this next movie. So
Hell yeah.
spoilers. We won't say the name yet. If you don't, if you don't know what I'm talking about now, that I've said that, yeah, like I guess we should definitely have a spoiler warning on this episode. But it immediately made me think of The Autopsy of Jane Doe. And I had asked them while we were watching, I was like, has anybody seen that movie? And because Mike couldn't join us for the third one, so everyone in the chat that we were watching said no, and I was like, oh man.
A great one.
If we do this podcast, I really, really want to talk about Autopsy of Jane Doe, especially in relation to this movie. So I was like, hey guys, you want to watch this movie with me?
Yeah,
and so we did.
Yeah, so before we continue, as Kat was saying, if you haven't seen this movie, I think it's safe to say we all recommend it. So
Yes.
like, pause this fucking podcast and go watch it.
Yes.
If
We're a
you
bunch
don't,
of hack frauds,
if you
they
don't
made
want to
it
be,
part.
if you don't
Yes.
want to be spoiled, pause it
Yeah.
and watch it, because we're gonna spoil the fuck out of it and we're gonna gush about it.
Yes, yeah.
God
And-
damn.
There's a couple things about this movie when thinking about comparing it to Fear Street 1666 that I'm like already getting like kind of excited about it because the ways that the autopsy of Jane Doe presents a very similar story to 1666, but by doing so in just like such a gripping, like visceral, like scary way, it's just crazy to like think of these two stories side by side for sure. And, my first thought, if we were gonna like break it down in terms of plot, I would just like to really quickly like talk about how this movie opens and relate that to something in Fear Street.
Before you get to that real quick though, I want to relay. I just want to, because Kat mentioned this too when we were watching Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Yeah.
So me and Kat and Lee, you know, when we and you've seen this too, Mike. When we watch something, we'll talk shit, even if we're enjoying something. We'll like crack jokes or talk trivia or whatever. Even if it's something like we haven't seen before, like, you know, like when I was showing you guys Twin Peaks, there were, you know, we're talking shit, poking fun of it or whatever.
yeah.
And Lee and I were cracking some jokes at the start of Autopsy of Jane Doe because, you know, we're assholes. This is what we do. Like when we're watching stuff, we're watching it, we're taking it seriously, we're cracking jokes. But as the movies started to go on and the central mystery started to present itself, the jokes became less and less and less frequent, and to the point where it was just dead fucking silence throughout the entirety of the screen.
I love that.
It was one of the first times I've been able to hear a pin drop while like on a chat with Saber and Lee, and I was just like, oh, they like it. They really like it.
That's so cool.
And I mean, you know, like you guys, all three of you, I really appreciate your guys' horror sensibilities. So just to be able to kind of introduce you to something that I you know, I heard multiple times, little like wows while we were watching. I'm like, yeah, cool, awesome.
Yeah.
So cool.
I'm so glad.
All right,
Yeah.
your
So
Fear Street thing.
Yes, Fear Street.
Yeah.
So, I just want to mention the way that Saber, you were a bit miffed a bit ago as we talked about Fear Street and Sarah Fear's how did you say above ground grave? You know.
Yeah.
Her like
her leaf burial,
shallow, stupid
they just took a rake and just like made a pile of leaves, and that was her grave.
Over the course of the whole series of Fear Street, that concept was never not silly, you know, and and Jane Doe begins with an extremely similar concept. There's a discovery of a corpse in a very shallow grave in the backyard of someone's home, and everyone in this home has died. And as the investigation is going on in this first scene in the movie, it becomes clear that the people in this home died trying to escape this home, and there's like a really dramatic pan in to this pristine corpse in this grave, and it's just a trip. It's for sure one of many comparisons that could be made, but throughout the course of this movie, thinking back as to why the Jane Doe's corpse was where it was, there's already enough. By the time you finish this movie, you definitely have your own ideas as to why it all makes sense.
Yeah.
That didn't happen in Fear Street, and it's a very elusive. It's a very elusive material that was used in this writing. That it's hard to place how Fear Street dropped that. But again, I do believe that these two stories, Fear Street part 3 specifically, and Jay and Doe, have similar, maybe not plots, but similar themes.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, the entire kind of like saga or saga, I guess, of Sarah Fear could be the saga of Jane Doe, right?
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, to kind of break it down a little bit, the plot of the Autopsy of Jane Doe is that this, like Mike was saying, this pristine body is found at a site, at a murder site. And she's brought, assuming she was killed there, and she's brought to this like father-son morgue. It's like a family business. They're morticians. They conduct autopsies for the county, and then kind of relay their findings. The dad is played by Brian Cox, and just he's amazing. First of all,
he did so good in this movie too.
One of my favorite characters in Deadwood.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And second of all, he's very much of the, like he's like the hard evidence guy. He's like, we don't care about the why. We're just here to give them all of the evidence so that they can figure out the why. Like we're doing, like, focus on your job. We're going to do everything else. His son is played by Emil Hirsch, who is also fantastic. Really haven't seen him in too much recently, but he's a very, very good actor and amazing in this.
Yeah.
And the son is, he's young. He doesn't, he doesn't know as much. He's just kind of like getting into the family business. He's got a girlfriend and he's going to, go out with her for the night, but they're just taking care of like one last body, before they, head out. The girlfriend does end up coming down. They end up kind of like showing her around the morgue a little bit. She has a little bit of like morbid curiosity. They have a gunshot victim on one of the slabs, and she sort of gets tempted to look at his face, which is covered by a sheet, and you can kind of tell that it's there is basically no face under there. But she ends up getting like a little jump scare with the bells on their toes that the dad explains is like an old mortuary trick to make sure people are actually dead and not just comatose or sleeping. It's like a fantastic little setup for many more things that happen later in the movie. So then Emil Hirsch is supposed to go to the movies with her. They're heading out, but then Jane Doe's body arrives, and basically like he ends up staying with his dad to finish this to finish this job for the state. It's like, very important. And they'll do their date some other time. And that ends up being a huge fucking mistake. As they begin the autopsy, the first thing they notice is they open her eyes, and her eyes are extremely clouded and discolored, which is basically a sign of this dead body died way longer than she appears to have died, essentially. And as they sort of start digging more into like the mystery of her and really digging into her, they start discovering all of these horrifying things. She's had her tongue cut out. She's had her wrists and her ankles are shattered, and there's no evidence on her skin of that. They open up her body, they like Y incision her, and her heart has scars on it as if it's been cut open. She's got like her lungs have been just like charred as if she was like burned alive. And then they peel back her skin and find like marks on the skin of like some sort of like ritualistic marks. And it's just this progresses over the course of the film, and just more and more you get more evidence of something is not right with this body. And gradually things start to happen around the morgue. The very first thing that happens is that they get a little bit of a jump scare where Emil Hirsch sees a figure in the mirror in the hallway. He kind of like follows where it went. He looks into a vent and gets a little jump scare. And I remember initially we all were kind of like, aha, it's gonna be the cat, because there's a cat in the movie that's like a good mouser. And that would be, like in most horror movies, that would be what would happen, is you'd have the first jump scare is kind of a little bit of a, oh, haha, it's like, break the tension a little bit. It's just the cat. It's fine. And then we're going to ramp it up into the real horror. But this movie does not do that. In fact, instead, when Brian Cox comes in and goes to actually check what's up in the vents, they find the cat half dead. And he has to put it out of its misery. And it's a really beautiful, sad scene, because up until this point, he's been very closed off with his son because his wife had cancer. And you slowly get pieces of their relationship as well. And he says the most beautiful line, in my opinion, in the movie, which is that, like, he hated that fucking cat, but it was the last thing of your mother's I had. And I'm like, oh, like, yeah. So the cat is the first victim. And then we get into another Fear Street parable, which is she starts raising zombies. The other dead people start coming to life, basically. Like once they kind of figure out, like, oh my God, there's something wrong with her. She like shatters the lights, and they end up in this, they end up stuck. There's a storm outside. The old sycamore fell over and has blocked them in. They can't get enough power to the elevator to get out. They're stuck down there with her. And she raises all of the dead bodies that they had before. You start to hear the jingle of their toe bells as they're walking around coming after them. It's...
Before you continue, can I also mention one other Fear Street parallel, which is...
Oh, yes.
There's licensed music in this movie, but it's thematically and artistically appropriate. It actually ties into the plot. It ties into scenes. It's used intelligently, not just... Yeah. Here's song, recognize.
So one of the first creepy moments that like is sort of unexplainable that they kind of don't notice is the radio starts to like switch dials, it just starts to do the seeking, like, and it settles on Let the Sunshine In, I think is the name of the song. Yeah, and that song is thematic, and it continues to go back to that song.
Rock song too, about like the dark-haired girl. Ties into the fucking movie.
That's right. That's right.
Like, it's not just there because we need a rock song while they're working. Like that's the other important thing. Like every single fucking licensed song in this movie comes from their little radio that they're realistically would be playing while they're doing their mortician shit.
Yep.
Like it makes sense. It's not just here's a bunch of students on the bus. Here's Creep by Radiohead for 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. But so they it ends up being a very horrifying night for them. And additionally, she causes some sort of, so they end up almost escaping. They get just enough power for the elevator to try to like wrench it open and go through. And she sends a zombie after them. And Brian Cox, in an effort to save his son, axes down the zombie. And it turns out to be the girlfriend. So yeah, he just like brutally axes the girlfriend. She's dead now. And there's this great moment where like you guys definitely pointed out while we were watching it. It very easily could have been used for like cheap drama, like, Dad, you killed my girlfriend, and like I thought she was a zombie. I was trying to save you, and they don't fucking do that because
they could have
actually
used it as an easy wedge to drive some family drama in there.
Yeah, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
They don't.
And yeah, they showed restraint and care and made their characters more intelligent because of it. Because obviously,
just everything about these two characters feels real and legitimate and believable and intelligent and just like
yeah. So once that happens, they decide to finish the autopsy. They decide to finish figuring out who this woman is and what the hell she's about. And that's when we get the reveal that they found also in her stomach, they made her swallow a tooth wrapped in a like some sort of little like parchment thing with writing on it. They find that the writing, when you fold it over, says a Bible verse. And the Bible verse talks about how to spot witches. So that is when we get the ultimate Fear Street tie-in where, oh my God, she was a witch.
Yep.
And then they start to go over the evidence they've had where, they had found peat in her hair and under her fingernails where they're like, you wouldn't find that regionally. Like, how did that get on her body? That's really weird. There was some other piece of evidence that they found that was like very much tied into. Essentially, they figure out she's from the Salem witch trials.
Yeah.
Their first thought is, but the Salem witch trials were all fake. It was all people just accusing other people, and there was no actual witchcraft. And this is actually, the next part is kind of the one part that I find a little bit weak about the movie. I still really like it because I like this twist, but it is just kind of like Brian Cox's character jumps to these conclusions where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I like that reveal, but maybe a little clumsy on the execution.
Yeah,
but
it's definitely a little clumsy, but everything else around it is so fucking strong,
so solid that
I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah, you can forgive it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he basically concludes that the process that they used, this process of torturing her to death, right? Where like they burned her and skinned her alive and broke her bones and sawed off her tongue. Like this whole thing they did to her to kill her actually turned her into the thing that they feared she was. So like this ritual to kill a witch performed on an innocent person actually created a witch. Like her hate and then essentially everything that they've been doing to her. Oh, because they figure out that they cut open her brain and they take samples and they find living cells.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
They figure out she's still alive and feeling everything that they've done to her. And like they're just like, yeah, this is like everything we've done. This is what's powering her. She's not, she's not killing people because she's just killing people because they're in her way. Like she's the reason all these people are dying just because she has so much hate from what happened to her essentially. And then they try to burn the body. It doesn't work. Valiantly, Brian Cox ends up trying to save his son by essentially he whispers to her that he's willing to do whatever, right? Just let him go. And she ends up transferring all of her wounds to him, which is just an insane amount of pain and torment. And you see his bones break, and you see the smoke filling his lungs, and by the end of it, he's begging his son to kill him, and his son kills him, and she doesn't let him go. She lets him get all the way up to the top of the stairs, where he hears the police officer from the beginning who brought Jane Doe trying to get the tree off the door that fell on the door. He's trying, and he's telling him, "Hey, you can open the door now. We got the tree off. And the son's just being like, I can't. And he's just like, let me in. And then it segues to that fucking Let the Sunshine In song.
And
the
it's
officer,
so creepy.
The officer, quote unquote, singing the Let the Sunshine In song that's been playing this whole time. And then Brian Cox's zombie shows up and scares Emil Hirsch, who falls and who falls down the stairs and dies. It's a brilliant reincorporation
of licensed music. It fits in with the narrative.
Yes.
It's not Here's Closer by Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so creepy and such a great use too of that, like, you give a little glimmer of hope and then you just dash it right away of like, you thought maybe that appeal to her worked, right? Like maybe she is going to let him go. Like maybe she's not just an angry spirit. Maybe she actually feels empathy. Nope. And then of course, the cop gets there for real after the storm is over, discovers this, carnage everywhere. The 3 new dead bodies. He's saying, I've known this family for years. There's absolutely no, I know what it looks like. And that did not happen. It's like this, the son would not kill his father and his girlfriend. That absolutely not. Yeah. And then he ends up the corpse on the table looks untouched. And he ends up just saying, I want her as far away from my county as possible. And yeah, the end of the film is her being driven across state lines as she changes the radio to that song, and we see just her toe wiggle at the very end, and that is the first time we've ever seen her move, and also just the end of the film. Yeah, and that movie was more effective than all 6 hours of Fear Street. And it has the equivalent rating on Rotten Tomatoes as the first one.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
It's an 82.
Yeah, that's a trip.
Yeah.
The Autopsy of Jane Doe did a lot of things that trusts the intelligence of the viewer and knows how to give just enough information to support its brilliant payoffs later.
Yep.
Like the bell on the toe, that could very easily be this ham-fisted thing that they shoved in there. But no, we used this bell because back in the day, if we didn't, we wouldn't know how to properly diagnose a state of being comatose. So we had to use this bell in case they woke up. And I just kind of do it out of superstition. It's like, oh, that's a cool little thing. And then as soon as shit started hitting the fan, there was this prolonged silence. And I just said, oh, fuck, if I hear that bell.
Yeah. There's so much Chekhov's gun in this movie. There's so much set off and payoff.
Yes, I forgot the expression, but yes, it's so much Chekhov's gun. And
it's, again, like you said, it's not ham-fisted in a way. It's for us who are very, experienced moviegoers, so to speak, we can spot these things a little more easily, but even then it's oh yeah, it's still so effective. None of us were going oh yeah, and then we're gonna hear the bell and then we're gonna do this, the scene I mentioned earlier about the girlfriend wanting to pull the sheet off of the guy who had his face blown off, right? That also pays off later. That's the one that Brian Cox axes. Yeah. Because we see him in the distance and we're like, oh my God, we're gonna see his face. And we've had this buildup of whatever is under that sheet is horrifying.
You don't want to see it.
You don't want to see it. And then when we do see it, it's horrifying, and then it leads to an added horrifying reveal of, oh my God, it was a hallucination. Yeah. And I just murdered my son's girlfriend.
Yeah, the film showed an incredible amount of restraint when it needed to. With a horror movie where the entire plot revolves around a body laying on a table and being examined, there are so many hack opportunities for jump scares.
Oh, yes.
Turn around and realize the body's sitting up. The body's gone. If you're looking up close at her face, then she does a quick blah, and screams at you, and then do a double take and the body didn't actually move. Like there's so much dumb shit they could have done. And
so
the
much
closest they
Conjuring
do,
3.
yes. And
Yeah.
the closest they get to that is they're examining her face and a fly crawls out of her nose.
Yes.
And it's just like, oh, gross.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's it.
Yeah.
A remarkable amount of restraint from the writer.
And we do have like a genuine scare moment of movement with her, which is when they first open her mouth. And you see the cutout tongue. That was I forgot about that moment, and that was a genuine like, oh, that is a creepy face.
Yeah.
Like, whew. Yeah.
It's a lot of really strong horror imagery that is not LOL horror XD like the it's spooky, bye man.
James, don't think it.
Grandpa's bones.
Or fucking like, look, I fucking like most of the movie, but it's like it doesn't have like the stupid sinister dead kid shit, you know, where it's like, oh, don't they look spooky? Don't these dead kids, like the spookiest shit about Sinister is like Ethan Hawke watching the snuff films.
God, I remember when you and I watched Sinister in theaters, and we are like completely engrossed into like, oh yeah, like the snuff film part's great, but ghouls the shit. This is awesome. And then as soon as the dead kids start like running around the living room, you just start going, these goddamn ghost kids jumping around on my furniture.
The fuck out of my house.
Get out of my house, you fucking ghost kids.
It's like so tonally off-putting, and it's not creepy. Like Ethan Hawke's genuine horror at watching like a family be set on fire or a family get run over by a fucking lawnmower is gripping and engaging, and it's just that restraint where like, you know, horrifying, violent shit is happening. And just seeing Ethan Hawke's reaction to it is far more impactful, and that's what Autopsy of Jane Doe does. It's like there's so much of it where it's just it's restraint, and it's the fear of the unknown, of just what the fuck is this slow buildup of dread and tension, and like we were saying, the characters are smart. Like when the horror stuff starts getting like really bad, we don't get the characters being like really stupid or anything like that. They immediately go, yeah, fuck this, let's go home. Like, let's get the fuck out of here. And it will
they desperately try to get out as soon as they kind of start getting like real terror starts setting in.
Yeah, like
but they can't.
A dumber movie would have had like some character drama tension of like one of the characters insisting on staying, and like we had a little bit of that, but that was before like the fear or the terror shit started really amping up. It was like, okay, shit's getting a little weird, Dad, can we finish this in the morning? And the dad's like, no, like we have a job to do, let's finish it. And it's understandable because like he's a professional, and it's like it's not off the rails yet.
At that point, the weird stuff had been like the radio malfunctioned, and it's like, yeah, it's an old ass radio, whatever.
Yeah, or the blood leaked.
Yeah, exactly. There was some creepy stuff about the body, but he's like, you know, like it was not yet getting to the level of zombies coming after you and
lights exploding.
Yeah, exactly. And her setting the whole room on fire and, you know, whatever. But yeah, I like such an effective performance for just like a cadaver, right? Like
dude, yeah.
Just such a good job of just absolutely framing the whole movie around just still images of this woman.
Yeah, to be that scary and you're not moving or saying anything, that's pretty special.
Yeah. No, I like just genuinely, I'm like absolutely what you said about the restraint shown is just so impressive to me. And it's something that, I'm not using the term meaning like less expensive, but a cheaper horror movie would have gone there in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And we've all seen those movies, you know, and they can be fun. They can be fine. Like
they can be wish upon.
They can be wish upon. I was going to say, I was gonna say I don't hate jump scares, but I do feel like jump scares are a very, very cheap method
They
of horror. I think they can be used to, like, I don't hate, like, for instance, I don't hate James Wan. I think he's a very effective horror director. I do really dislike how much he overuses jump scares.
Yeah.
And I do kind of wish he would dial that back a little bit.
For me, the jump scare, if it's just a pointless, like, fake out jump scare, you can fuck right off. And that's what so many horror movies do.
Yeah, they like doing that a lot.
Yeah.
They like the...
Or they do, like, really obnoxious jump scares. But, like, an effective jump scare, I have no problem with. Especially if, like, the effective jump scare is what is kickstarting the terror for a particular character. Which you see a lot in really good horror movies. I mean, The Thing, like, the chest scene in The Thing, that's a jump scare. But it kicks off a character dying, and it kicks off the characters having to fucking panic. And deal with the situation. Like, it's not just there for bleh.
Yeah.
But bleh.
I will say the kind of jump scares I really appreciate are not the ones where they just like flash an image and a loud noise in front of me.
Yeah, fuck that.
I like stuff where, like, I think the first Ghost Encounters Grave Encounters movie does this, and also It Follows does this. Just having something huge suddenly appear in a door frame, where like there's a door frame in the background or something, and characters are talking about something in the foreground, and you just see something walk into the door frame and have to like duck under it, and that's just like the creepiest fucking thing to me.
Yeah. That's also like.
I think do you guys remember that from It Follows?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's the movie I'm thinking
yeah,
of.
it's there's the banging on the door, and the girl is like, don't open the door, and they open it, and it's their friend. She's like, what's wrong? And she walks in, and then that tall man
comes in behind her, and you're like, oh god, no.
Like, so much of that, and that's another movie with so much restraint, where just so much of that movie is just the terror of something slowly walking. And it's horrifying.
And something constantly in the background too.
Yeah.
Like, that is just it's an absolutely brilliant. There's a short story that I read in like an anthology a while ago, like a couple of years ago, where it's literally about like a filmmaker or a series of film buffs who try to seek out this like lost film from this horror filmmaker, and the film is literally about like something in the like something following people, like behind, like directly behind them, just kind of like a shadow. And it's such an effective story. I'll have to send it to you guys, but it's a very, very effective story. And for that exact reason, where it's just like something in like the way the film is described is it's like something that's always in the background, or something that like you're always somewhat aware of in the shot. Like there's like some unexplained shadow on a character that just starts like slowly moving, and you're like, what the fuck is that? And it's like,
that movie, you're constantly looking in the background at the extras, and you have no fucking idea what is the creature until it actually gets close enough.
Yes, or God, like the shots where you see like a naked person on the roof, but like in like out of focus, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Why are you on the roof? That's a very inefficient way to walk toward her.
Yeah. Like, I mean, sure, you could like nitpick that movie apart, and I'm sure like fucking picky assholes have and whatnot.
My joke was not meant to be a like disparaging. No. It Follows. I love It Follows.
I know that. I'm just saying like preemptively for people who listen to this. Like, you can nitpick so much stuff, but like, when you're like genuinely engaged, like the nitpicky shit doesn't really matter at all that much. It's like kind of like Gremlins, if you really think about the rules, kind of like how Gremlins 2 pokes fun of, the rules don't make sense, but the movie is engaging and engrossing enough that in the moment you're not necessarily thinking about whether or not the rules for feeding a mogwai after midnight make sense or not.
Yeah.
Whereas in Fear Street, I'm they're literally explaining the rules of the creature, and it's like, but you were breaking those rules 10 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not engaged in this cavalcade of fuckery, this devil worship.
Debbul?
Debbul?
Devil worship. The devil worship.
Oh yeah, I don't think we explained that. That is our extremely exaggerated. To be fair,
I don't think it's exaggerated.
that's our exaggerated impression of the accents used in Fear Street Part 3, Part 1.
Specifically, the lead actress, whenever she says devil, it's just good devil.
It's funny too because when we flash back to 94 and she's driving Sheriff Good's car and she's explaining what she discovered in that flashback arc to her brother, and she says that like the Goods sold her souls, but the accent comes back when she says to the devil.
No,
It does. It does.
Oh my God,
it was pretty funny.
Good ear on that, but
also I'm now reminded too of again at how shitty this fucking trilogy is. The whole, like, we were another reason why I was joking in Fear Street 1 that Sheriff Good was evil is because his last name is Good. And then I started getting more of the feeling that, like, okay, he's actually the bad guy in Part 2 because he was like the only character from Part 1 to be in Part 2. And they're making him out to be this really nice, sweet fucking guy, even though we had nothing with him in the first movie.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, when the big reveal happens and she's telling her fucking brother about the flashback, of course, because these writers are fucking hacks. Like, sure, maybe this line could have worked if it was like a horror comedy or something like that, but it maybe some people see this as a horror comedy. I don't, because there's no humor here. Of course,
I don't think IMDb does either.
Yeah, of course, she fucking says, "Good is evil."
Yeah, I hated it.
Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it?
Oh
Do
my
you
God.
get it? Do you get it?
I get it.
The 1990s Goosebumps series, as cheesy and as hokey as that shit is better than this fucking pile of cinematic afterbirth.
Yeah, IMDb says drama, horror, mystery.
There's no drama.
There's no mystery we solved with a joke in the first movie.
The only mystery is its fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Well.
Yeah. So, two severed thumbs up for Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I had to take a little time to think about it, and I wanted to give it until the pod to make sure, but I'm pretty sure it's in my top 10 horror.
Really?
Wow, that's sick. Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
wow.
I'm really impressed with that movie the more I dwell on it.
Yeah. I think I'd agree, actually.
Yeah, good pick, Kat.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
You saved us and the podcast.
Yeah, I let the sunshine in.
Ah!
Oh, geez.
And the Resident Evil miniseries. Final thoughts?
If you're a fan of the franchise, give it a watch. That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same.
there isn't much to say
If
there.
you're,
No,
if you're
I
for more
would,
Resident Evil material while waiting for the Village DLC.
I would disagree. I would say that my final thoughts are fear is the root of terror.
Oh my God.
Yes, correct. Yeah, I think if you've it's no more forgettable than any of the other CGI movies. So
Yeah.
whatever, pop it on if you got a couple hours to burn.
If you want to see Leon Kennedy just be an action badass,
And Claire do nothing.
and Claire do
And
nothing,
Fear do nothing.
Claire.
and the big bad get dipped in acid twice.
You mean urine?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. The
You mean
boil pee.
Yeah, boiling pee.
Brother.
Yeah.
And Fear Street?
Insanely overrated.
Die.
Mhm.
A fad. It won't be mentioned in a couple of months,
Yeah. Oh,
and it'll be
you know
gone
what?
to the wind.
You know what? I think you're exactly right. I think this is going to go the way of Bird Box.
Hmm.
Yes. Oh, very good comparison. This is going to go
Yeah.
the way of Bird Box. Absolutely.
Where like eventually people will be like, "Hey, you know what? That was just the happening, and also shitty." You're like, "Eh." So it was.
Same as it ever was.
Same as it
Same
ever
as
was.
it ever was.
Yeah, no, my final thoughts on Fear Street is fuck. I was really mad at Conjuring 3, and I was invested in that franchise. At least the main entries. I am more mad at Fear Street for just, and I have no investment in that franchise, for just being so fucking inept and wasting what could have been a fun, schlocky horror movie. Like, it's not even the fun bad to watch, like Wish
No.
Upon, which we will eventually talk about on this show.
Get ready, Mike.
Like,
I'm convinced Wish Upon is just going to be an anniversary edition at this point. We're going to keep referencing how enjoyable it is, and it'll be like episode 100.
maybe.
Yeah, probably.
Like, it's not a fun bad to watch, especially because it's 6 goddamn hours. And so much of it is filler. Like, the slasher movies can get a lot of bad rap, especially like really bad ones, because they can be really fucking stupid and really fucking inept. Like Halloween 6 is a hot garbage fire, right? Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, is a fucking garbage fire because, like, that movie is a goddamn lie. It's Jason on a boat for an hour, and then there's like a couple of insert shots of New York, but it's filmed in Toronto for like the last 20 minutes. Both of those movies are far more entertaining and watchable than 99.9% of Fear Street. I hate the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, and I would gladly rewatch the Rob Zombie Halloween movies over this pile of shit.
Wow.
I hate the Jackie Earle Haley Nightmare on Elm Street movie. It has a couple moments in it that are fine, but it's mostly just a waste of time.
Yeah, no,
But I would watch that over that.
I liked the nightmare sections and like I liked some of the more artistic parts of it.
Yeah.
You know, like in terms of their aesthetic. Other than that, completely forgettable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the only thing I remember about that being genuinely terrifying is after the kid dies in the prison or whatever. It cuts back to the nightmare world, and fucking Freddy tells him, did you know that after the heart stops, the brain remains active for 7 minutes? That means we have 7 more minutes to play. And it's like, that's genuinely fucking horrifying. And the rest of that movie is a dumpster fire, and I would still gladly rewatch it over the entirety of this fucking Fear Street trilogy.
Well,
Like, it's some of the worst horror movies I have seen. I would gladly rewatch over Fear Street because, like, at least they can be well, for starters, they're not fucking 6 goddamn hours filled with
And they have
fucking endless filler.
substance.
Yeah, like, good.
Even if it's bad
God.
substance, it's at least substance. This is like, again, it's watered down references to better horror movies.
Yeah.
Just watch the better horror movies, or if you want a bunch of references together, watch American Horror Story. There we go. There's my pitch.
Yeah, or, you know, on that too, if you want to watch a bunch of horror movie references together in a tightly packed horror movie setting, watch Scream or The Cabin in the Woods.
Oh yeah.
Watch
Cabin in the
either of
Woods is a good
those.
one.
Like, Scream is like, it constantly is it does that sin of constantly referencing classic movies, and I hate that in movies because, like, it's like, yes, I should be watching this as opposed to whatever. But at least Scream is like made by competent filmmaker and has some intelligence behind it and is entertaining and has like a good cast. So it's like, hey, this is a good movie. It's not as good as like The Exorcist or Halloween, but like I'll let it slide because the whole point of this movie is to be meta. But when you're constantly shoving horror movie references down my throat and the movie's point is to not be meta, and you're just reminding me of better horror movies that I should be watching as opposed to this dumpster fire of Debbul worship.
Debbul.
Mikey, what'd you think?
Well, I'm definitely in it. I am in the consensus that the series was not good. Did not really enjoy it. I honestly, at several points watching the series and thinking about the series, I've wondered, am I just being too like hard? Maybe too critical. I don't know. Like, is there a reason that the series is getting so much hype and like play at the current time? But. I really don't have any answers to that suit. The first movie was boring and stupid.
Yep.
The second movie was passable, but just so. The third one honestly annoyed me on some deep levels for sure. I'm not really feeling it. Yeah. To be honest, if this wasn't such already an inside joke that you guys show me movies that aren't that great, I would be a little surprised that we all sat down and spent the time here. But
to be fair,
it was fun, of course.
To be fair, though, at least in this instance, Mike, all right. I didn't know this was going to be a tire fire going into it, man.
I know, man. I know.
Conjuring 3 and Spiral, yeah, they got bad reviews, so we're like, okay, maybe this is gonna be, maybe this will be fun bad, right? This was like, again, getting really good reception online, and I'm like, all right, well, I mean, clearly, like, it has to have something of value, and then we find out that it's no, there's nothing of value. It's just a bunch of people huffing the thoughts of the devil. The devil would it's just there's nothing of value in, like, it's a waste of time. I would rather watch Wish Upon 3 times in a row.
I mean, it was actually fun though. Yeah.
Hey.
You put some respect on that tone when you talk about Wish.
Sorry, it's not Wish Upon's fault. It's not Wish Upon's fault. It's Fear Street's fault.
Don't you drag Wish Upon into Fear Street, Sally?
Look, all right, we're gonna talk about Wish Upon soon.
We have to.
Yeah. Tease forever.
We have to.
All right.
And yeah, Autopsy of Jane Doe slapped.
Oh,
yeah,
banger.
Hell yeah. You gonna play us out, Saber?
Yeah, next episode might be James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, because apparently that's coming out this Friday, and it's also getting really high praise, but now I'm kind of worried because Fear Street. But it's James Gunn, and I'm a fan of his. He's a talented writer and director, I think.
Yeah. He does good work.
Yeah, and I like Idris Elba. I like Margot Robbie. And I wish she had better material as Harley Quinn.
I love her as Harley Quinn, and yes, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
And there's another world-class celebrity athlete in the film, and his name's John Cena!
Yeah.
Oh no, are you serious?
Yeah, John Cena's in it.
Oh yeah.
He's basically playing douchebag Captain America, Mike.
Yes.
His name is the Peacemaker.
Awesome.
His name is the Peacemaker, and apparently he's basically just douchebag, super jingoistic Captain America.
Okay.
Yep.
And yeah, like there's a line in the trailer where they're like, why don't you go eat a bag of dicks? And John Cena's like, if this beach was covered in dicks and it would help America get their freedom, I'd totally do it for America. Because he's just He's just douchebag Captain America, hardcore bro Captain America. And I'm like,
That
all right,
sounds
you know,
like
this,
my kind of character.
yeah,
That's
it's
good.
like, why not? You know, sure, let's maybe give it a shot. But yeah, probably the Suicide Squad, and also Wish Upon. And there's also some other plans. Well, I mean, not in the same episode, but you know, I have to keep teasing Wish Upon. It's our pocket episode. And we also have some other shit planned in the near future for some cool shit. But anyways, yeah, this is the Gooncast. Y'all know who we are at this point. Get fucked.
Sick.
Okay.
Thanks
That's
again.
one
guys.
way to do it.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. That's not gonna be the ending. Unless y'all want it to be the ending.
I think it's pretty good.
All right.
Do we want to?
No.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
plug.
plug,
You
plug,
can
please.
find Saber at Saber0307 on Twitch. He is currently just starting day 3, I believe, right?
Day
Of
2.
back-
Because
Day 2?
Official day 2.
Official day 2, because the first day
Okay.
was day 0.
Oh, right. All right.
Because-
Day
yeah.
2 of Back to Ghoul, where it's going to be nothing but horror games until Halloween.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm doing Haunting Ground now.
Mhm.
And as opposed to, you know, because we just finished off Diet Corpse Party, and that sucked.
Yeah, God.
Which we
Uh,
will not speak of.
I will
No,
not speak of until we discuss
Don't say it.
until we discuss Corpse Party with Niku, but we're not going to be discussing the Corpse Party games. That's maybe for later. No, instead,
Mhm.
a tease for a future episode is with our friend Niku Senpai, where we are going to finally sit down and watch the live-action Corpse Party movies and and discuss those, and maybe even that
And-
Corpse Party
and the
OVA.
anime?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which Lee's
Oh
seen.
no.
I've seen the OVA. I have edited the OVA.
Yep. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
gonna be
you
awful.
spliced that shit into that.
Niku has also not seen the live-action movies. He has seen the OVA and he hated it though,
Okay.
mostly because of the ending.
That's fair.
But yeah, that'll be a thing at some point, and maybe we'll talk about
I'm so
the
excited.
Diet Corpse Party thing coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also we got other video game based movies at some point in our back pocket that we need to watch and sit down for. But yeah,
Right
Saber0307 on Twitch. Back to Ghoul, nonstop horror games until around Halloween. So
Yeah. And I'm the Attack Cat on Twitch. I was most recently streaming Goose Game with my fiance. I will probably be maybe jumping into a little bit of the horror with James. But otherwise, you know, some more Nancy Drew, some more point and click adventures
Nice.
on the docket.
All right, and then this has been your boy Lee Alder, the Valley Jester. You can catch me streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/Valley Jester. I'm also playing a horror game currently, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. It's fucking terrifying. Hop
It
on
is.
in and watch my misery. And you can catch some of my posts infrequently on my website at leealdercreative.com.
Uh-huh. Nice. And once again, I'm Mike Ghoulgutts. You can find me by typing M Ghoulgutts into Twitch. I do not stream very often, but who knows? The month of the spooks is coming up. We'll see
yeah.
what's going down.
I gotta get
But
you to
yeah.
stream the Quiet
Mhm.
Man, Mike.
This game sounds pretty bad, so no.
I'm buying you the Quiet Man, Mike.
Please don't,
God.
James. Please don't.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, and Fear Street sucks farts.
Yep, stay beautiful, folks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Jojo, stop fucking biting my hands.
The devil.
The devil.